All right, is Claudine Gay gay? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that I care, but here's what I do care about. Is Claudine Gay a plagiarist? I believe that there's evidence out there that suggests that she is, and I will go over that evidence in this podcast. There's a couple of notes that I jotted down that I want you to consider as we go throughout this podcast. Here's what I want you to understand. Lowering college admission standards is not compassion. It is condescending. When you lower college admission standards, you are telling minorities or people that are too dumb to make it into higher education that they're not smart enough to get in based upon merit, so you want to give them a handout. I'm sorry, they probably have a gift somewhere else outside of academia, and they need to go fulfill that gift. Another thing that I want you to think about, the use of CRT and DEI in higher education is proof that the secularists long to feel moral despite rejecting biblical values and objective truth. I want you to understand that. These lefties at these Ivy Tower universities want to feel moral, but they do not want to recognize God. You guys may have heard that Fauci basically says, listen, I have no need to go to church anymore because I is God. That's not exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the point. And Victor Davis Hanson had a fabulous piece on AM greatness in addressing what has happened on these university campuses. The piece is entitled, How Were the Universities Lost? In that article, he explains, and I'll break it down for you, how after the George Floyd riots, admissions on these college university campuses focused so heavily on diversity and allowed fewer whites to come in that it's destroying these college campuses, not because of the color of the people's skin, but because these college universities are so woke, they are so desperate to get people in of color, if you will, and they're just kind of not outright rejecting merit, but it's not as big of a deal as it should be, especially on these Ivy League campuses. SAT requirements were abolished. You guys know that. I've talked about this in the past, but many of these states around the United States have abolished SAT requirements, which is absolutely asinine. All right. That is a standard bearer, and you should be able to have a high SAT score in order to graduate and get into some of these universities, the prestigious universities. That has gone bye-bye. GPAs, even on the high school level, have been watered down and diluted so many kids can get extra credit. You wonder why these kids graduate with like a 4.8 grade point average. I'm like, how is that even possible? So many of these kids are doing extra credit work and all this kind of stuff. They're working hard, right? But it does not mean that they belong in some of these some of the most prestigious universities. Maybe without that extra credit, maybe their GPA would be a solid 3.0. 3.2, something like that, but they don't belong at Harvard or Yale or Stanford or Brown or one at UPenn, MIT. They don't belong there, but a lot of these people are being admitted there. Did you guys know this? The number of Jewish admissions into these Ivy League institutions has plummeted since the George Floyd riots, nearly by 50%. Also, foreign students from the Middle East, oil-rich Middle Eastern countries, admissions for them have absolutely skyrocketed. And that's why you see this anti-Semitism that has exploded on these college campuses. Professors are in a lose-lose situation because they are forced to bow down to the DEI, CRT, woke mob by inflating grades for these minority students, or they're going to get canceled. And that's what we're facing. So we've always known that these college universities were intolerant. At least we have for a long time. We've known that they're leftist. We've known that for a long time. But now we know they're anti-Semitic. And now we know that a lot of these campuses, I'm sorry, perhaps they need to be shut down or at least winnowed down. So I want to get into this detail. I want to get into details when it comes to this Claudine Gay. Claudine Gay is a plagiarist, guys. I'm sorry. There's more and more evidence that is coming out. Her job has been saved, it appears, and it is because I believe she's black and she may be gay. I mean, she looks like she's gay. Carl, what does a gay person look like? They look like Claudine Gay. That's what they look like. I don't I don't know, but you know what I mean? But honestly, you had about 700 faculty members, I'm assuming professors, backed Claudine Gay and said, "Listen, we don't want Claudine Gay to go anywhere." And apparently, the board has decided that she won't. The only reason that she got that, she didn't get the Liz McGill, the president of the former president now of UPenn, who resigned. The only reason why she didn't get that type of treatment and that pressure to resign is because she's black and she's probably gay. I don't know. I should confirm this. Or forgive me. I should confirm that she's gay before I say that she's gay. She just looks gay to me. All right. And I know that would go very high up, right? She would be extremely high on the totem pole of wokeness if she's both black, gay. Oh, trifecta. I didn't even think about this, Gabe. Why didn't you even? Yeah, she's a woman. She's black. And if she's gay, of course, she becomes a Harvard president. She should be the next president of the United States, according to the left, right? That's exactly how they think. All right, so hat tip to the Daily Wire. Harvard President Claudine Gay responds to mounting plagiarism allegations as calls for her ouster intensifies. And guys, she should be ousted. She should be kicked out, in my opinion, after being exposed as a plagiarist by Chris Rufo. Harvard President Claudine Gay said that she stands by her work. Actually, she stands by other people's work, and we will get into that shortly. So journalist Christopher Rufo, he's a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. He published this report on Sunday, and I'm going to go through this, outlining what he indicated to be 3 instances in which Gay has plagiarized her Harvard per Harvard standards in her dissertation. All right, so her dissertation was called Taking Charge, Black Electoral Success, and the Redefinition of American Policies. So I want to get into that. But before I do, I want to make sure that I tell you guys, listen, Christmas is coming up soon. And I want you guys to go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, enter my name, Carl, and get all of these great deals that are available to you. Listen to some of them here. MyPillow is excited to bring you their biggest bedding sale ever, and just in time for Christmas. For a limited time, you can get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with the MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. They also have blankets in a variety of sizes, colors, and styles. They even have blankets for your pets. You can get duvets, quilts, down comforters, body pillows, bolster pillows, and so much more. All the biggest discounts of the year are happening now. They're also extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1st of next year. So that's March 1st of 2024, making them the perfect gifts for your friends, your family, and everyone that you know. So go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, that is CARL. Again, go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Carl. You'll get huge discounts on all MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all of your shopping done right now while the quantities last. Also, I want to encourage you to follow me on all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. I'm on YouTube and Rumble. Rate and review, por favor, on YouTube and Rumble. Give us a 5 so that more people get to hear this program. All right, so now, getting back to this issue where the Harvard president, Claudine Gay, is responding to mounting pressure. And apparently, I saw breaking earlier today that Harvard has decided to keep the plagiarists. Quite frankly, I would not want to pay that much for a school where I knew a plagiarist, where I knew that a plagiarist was running it. And I believe that the only reason that plagiarist has the position of president is simply because of the color of her skin and what's between her legs, and perhaps her sexual orientation. If you believe, like Gabe, that she's gay. Do you believe that Claudine Gay is gay? Gabe believes that Claudine Gay is gay. And I kind of believe that and I believe that Claudine Gay is gay too. But anyway, we'll research that. But I'm just going to take a wild stab at it. My opinion, okay? All right, now. So Gay has been facing pressure to resign again after that disastrous congressional hearing. But again, it hasn't happened. She couldn't denounce calls for genocide and the rise of anti-Semitism that is occurring on her college campus. She also says when it comes to the plagiarism, she says, quote, "I stand by the integrity of my scholarship. She told this to the Boston Globe. She said, throughout my career, I've worked to ensure my scholarship adheres to the highest academic standards, close quote. The allegations are as such. Gay is accused of, quote, lifting, quote, nearly verbatim, close quote, work from Lawrence Bobo, Franklin Gilliam, and their paper called, quote, Race, Sociopolitical Participation, and Black Empowerment. Actually, there's a column from the Free Beacon this morning where there appears to be even more evidence going all the way back to the mid or so 90s that more plagiarism was involved. Christopher Rufo cites Harvard's own policy on plagiarism and paraphrasing, and it says this is Harvard's own policy. Quote, when you paraphrase, your task is to distill the source's ideas in your own words. So you make other people's words your own, but you have to give them credit, in other words. It's not enough to change a few words here and there and leave the rest. Instead, you must completely restate the ideas in the passage in your own words. If your own language is too close to the original, then you are plagiarizing, even if you do provide a citation. Quote, unquote. All right. So here's a quote from billionaire Harvard alum Bill Ackman and donor, or at least former donor. He said, I asked a senior member of the Harvard faculty to examine the below allegations of plagiarism against President Gay. And he said the faculty member found them to be credible, quote, unquote. And guys, I'm telling you, this stuff is blowing up. This lady should be out, but it looks like she's going to get a save simply based upon her race. It's absolutely asinine to me. But this is what happens on the left, sadly. They will save their own. They will save their own. All right, I'm looking at this right now. This is Tuesday, December 12th. Harvard President Claudine Gay responds to mounting plagiarism allegations as calls for ouster intensify. But I saw the breaking news that, listen, she's going to stay put. Harvard's highest governing body unanimously reaffirmed support for president after her troubling congressional hearing. So it appears as though she's there to stay. This is a sad state of affairs, in my opinion. Since the report on plagiarism, what's called the National Association of Scholars have come out calling for Gay's removal as president. Again, you're hearing the breaking news that it doesn't appear as though it is going to happen. The esteemed group notes, this is a quote from Christopher Rufo, notes Gay's shoddy professional work, her record of plagiarism, and promotion of racist policies, and he says momentum is building. Unfortunately, it appears as though momentum is lost, but I'm not sure. Maybe that can turn around. Further reports of Gay's alleged plagiarism have only compounded since the October 7th Hamas terror attacks against Israel. Gay has been under fire for her response to that congressional hearing. Now, all right, so that is the summary from the Daily Wire. Now, here's what I want to do. I'm going to provide you some of the evidence here. I'm going to provide you the three examples that Christopher Rufo provided to the rest of us in his piece. You can find it on City Journal or at his Substack. Is Claudine Gay a plagiarist? He asked the question. All right, so Claudine Gay, for those of you that don't know, she was just hired this summer to take over as president of Harvard. Now, this is the most prestigious university in the entire United States, Harvard is. So let me make this emphatically clear. I am not saying anyone that makes it to Harvard is no dummy, all right? Listen, they're no dummy, all right? We get that. But are they Harvard smart? And in today's culture, today's social environment, that isn't necessarily the case. So Claudine Gay is the first black woman to run Harvard, and again, the nation's most prestigious university, and she assumed that position with very high expectations. Christopher Rufo writes, but her tenure, which began this summer, has been mired in scandal as dean and then as president. So she was first the dean of Harvard, and now she is the president of Harvard. So here's what she's been accused of. And I guess this is the way you get promoted as a leftist. I don't know. So Gay has been accused of bullying her colleagues. She's been accused of suppressing free speech on campus, overseeing a racist admissions program on campus following the Hamas terror campaign against Israel, and failing to stand up against the rise of anti-Semitism on her campus. And we saw that again in the congressional hearing that we just watched last week. Gay's latest problem is the problem that is plagiarism, all right, of sections of her PhD dissertation. All right, now, Christopher Rufo said that we've obtained exclusive documentation demonstrating that President Gay may face another problem, and that is plagiarism of sections of her PhD. And again, there's even more that has broken this morning that I saw on the Free Beacon, which I'll get to. So here's her dissertation that's now under scrutiny. And guys, you're asking, why is this important, Carl? We've got all of these things going on in the country. You have right now, what's this fool's name? Hunter Biden. That is absolutely upset that charges are being brought against him. He thinks that he's been thrown under the bus. He thinks it's all political. He thinks the gun charges against him should be dropped. All of this stuff is going on. You have Special Counsel Jack Smith that is literally petitioning the Supreme Court of the United States to figure out whether or not the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, has the legal right to argue that, listen, once you become president, I want to make sure I get the wording right, but basically, are you free of guilt of crime in perpetuity once you become president? All right, I think I'm phrasing that. I think I'm phrasing that in the right way. So, Carl, why are you bothering with this stuff when all of that stuff is happening? And actually, I'm going to touch on that stuff as well. I was going to do a separate podcast today. I'll make sure that I touch on Trump and the Iowa polls, what's happening, what's really happening with Hunter Biden. I think the underlying messages that are being sent with Hunter Biden, with the Iowa polls and all this kind of stuff. So we'll get into, I promise, we'll do a podcast on all of that. I think it's very important as we inch closer and closer to the Iowa caucuses. But this is very important because, guys, I'm not convinced that anyone's going to break down the DOJ or going to completely abolish it, because I'm not sure that they would have the support from the American people. Sadly, I don't think the conservative movement or the Republican Party has made the effective case that they should have made against the DOJ and the FBI and how they have gone rogue. Instead, the narrative against Trump and the J6 narrative, sadly, has been very effective. I think it's worked for many people that want to move on from that instead of making sure that we don't have a fair rule of law system, especially in the federal government, the DOJ, the FBI, so on, etc. So whatever, whether it's messaging or whatever it may be, you still have the country that seems to be split. And so some of the country, if you get rid of the DOJ and the FBI, all they're going to say is, listen, the only reason Trump or the Republicans want to get rid of the DOJ and the FBI is because they're corrupt. It's because Trump is a criminal. That's what people believe. We can say all we want to combat it. We can show them all the evidence we want. That is never going to change their minds. But we have to start thinking long term as well. Now, I do believe that we need to win 2024. I do believe this country is in trouble. And honestly, we all already live in a post-constitutional America. But I think the further we go down the road, if we continue to lose the White House, if we can continue to lose, the Senate, not gain control of the Senate, not retain control of the House and in higher numbers, but with more aggressive, stronger conservatives, constitutional restorationists, I believe that we're going to remain in a post-constitutional America, and it's just going to get harder and harder and harder to get back or to restore. So if we don't cut out the DOJ in its entirety, what do you have to do? You have to start fighting against those systems that are pumping out all of these woke social justice warriors, whether they go into academia, whether they go into law enforcement, whether they go into science, medicine, so on, etc. This is how you start fighting back. We have to win in all of these institutions, all of them. The left has taken over everything. I'm talking about entertainment. We know this. Academia, most of media, and we have to start fighting back, and we've got to gain ground. But if we don't start winning in these other institutions, it's going to get harder and harder. Even in churches, even in churches, wokeism has taken over. So now, getting back to this issue with Claudine Gay, I mean, this lady is a plagiarist. The evidence is right here in front of my face. She is a plagiarist. There's no doubt about it. All right, so now getting back to this column by Christopher Rufo called "Is Claudine Gay a Plagiarist?" And again, he lays it out. Here's her dissertation that's now under scrutiny. So Gay published her dissertation. It's called "Taking Charge, Black Electoral Success and the Redefinition of American Politics." This occurred in 1997 as part of her doctorate in political science from Harvard. So the paper, Christopher Rufo writes, deals with white black political representation and racial attitudes. He says, as evaluated under the university's plagiarism policy, the paper contains at least 3 problematic patterns of usage and citations. And I will give you the examples shortly. But I want to ask you this question. Before we go there. You mean to tell me that no one caught this until now? And guys, there's more. I got to find this because I keep talking about it. I keep quoting it. You mean to tell me, where is this at? That nobody knew about this until now? See, I think these Ivy League college campuses, they've been woke for a long time, far longer than we realize. This is going back to the Obama era. And I think they've been itching and dying and scratching to make sure that they can get a candidate like a Claudine Gay that touches all the woke surfaces, right? Black, female, possibly gay, all right? So I think they wanted to hit all of those, right? And then that way, any Republican, any white person that comes after her, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist. And quite frankly, I think that's what's happening with all of these people backing Claudine Gay, all these staffers that are backing Claudine Gay. Again, I think they're void of biblical principles. I think they're void of real morality. So they virtue signal because they want to make you feel immoral. And the truth is they are immoral. They don't believe in objective truths. They don't believe in the God of the Bible. What do they believe in? They believe in climate change. They believe in wokeism, so on, etc. And I think this is why she survived, at least for now. But I'm hoping that this isn't long term. All right, now, someone knew this. Someone knew this. While she was moving up the charts, if you will, someone knew this. So here's the first example of a plagiarism. So first, Gay, Christopher Rufo writes, lifts an entire paragraph, nearly verbatim, from Lawrence Bobo and Franklin Gilliams. She also copied Carol Swain, which I'll get into. Carol Swain, a black conservative. But I want you to listen to this first body of evidence. She passed this off as her own. Again, she lifted almost verbatim an entire paragraph in her dissertation for her PhD from Lawrence Bobo and Franklin Gilliam's paper, Race, Sociopolitical Participation, and Black Empowerment, and she passed it off as her own. So here's the original. See if you can listen to the difference. I'm going to read the original paragraph, and then I'm going to read Gay's version. All right? This is the first paragraph. Remember the words that I start with. Using 1987 National Sample Survey data, the results show that blacks in high black empowerment areas, as indicated by control of the mayor's office, are more active than either blacks living in low empowerment areas or their white counterparts of comparable socioeconomic status. Furthermore, the results show that empowerment influences black participation by contributing to a more trusting and efficacious orientation to politics and by greatly increasing black attentiveness to political affairs. So that is the original from Lawrence Bobo and Franklin Gilliams from their paper, Race, Sociopolitical Participation, and Black Empowerment. Now, here's Claudine Gay's version. Remember what the last paragraph started with. It started with using 1987. She says nearly verbatim. Using 1987 survey data. All she did was take out national sample from the top. Bobo and Gilliam found that African Americans, quote, in high black empowerment areas as indicated by control of the mayor's office, are more active than either African Americans in low empowerment areas or their white counterparts of comparable socioeconomic status. Empowerment, they conclude, influences black participation by contributing to a more trusting and efficacious orientation towards politics and by greatly increasing black attentiveness to political affairs. So instead of saying that she's basically quoting them, she plays it off as if she's speaking of them, but using her own language. You see what's happening here? That is the first example. So Gay doesn't provide a reference to the original authors, despite using their words almost verbatim. All right. And according to Harvard, this constitutes plagiarism. I wrote, this is a clear violation. Again, just as a reminder, it says when you paraphrase, this is while she's president. This is their policy against plagiarism and paraphrasing right now at Harvard. When you paraphrase, your task is to distill the source's ideas in your own words. It's not enough to change a few words here and there and leave the rest. Instead, you must completely restate the ideas in the passage in your own words. If your own language is too close to the original, then you are plagiarizing, even if you do provide a citation. So she's plagiarizing. All right. She plagiarizes others throughout her dissertation as well. People like, who does he names? Bobo and Gilliam, as well as passages from Richard Shingles, Susan Howe, Deborah Fagan, which he reproduces nearly verbatim. Christopher Rufo writes, without quotation marks, he says. Here's a second example of plagiarism. Gay appears to lift material from scholar Carol Swain in at least two instances. In one passage, and Carol Swain being a black conservative, in one passage summarizing the distinction between quote-unquote descriptive representation and quote-unquote substantive representation. She copies the phrasing and language nearly verbatim from Swain's book called Black Faces, Black Interests, without providing a citation of any kind. So here's what Carol Swain writes, and Gay probably thought she would get away with this, right? She probably thought she would get away with this because who's going to read a black conservative on an Ivy League campus? Seriously. All right. Now, here's what Carol Swain writes. PHIC, P-H-I-C. I don't even know what that means. I looked it up and all I saw was an acronym, and perhaps it means that of a Filipino healthcare system of some sort. But it says PHIC, P-H-I-C, characteristics and more substantive representation, quote unquote, the correspondence between representatives, goals, and those of their constituents. Now, here's Gay's version. Social scientists have concentrated between descriptive representation, although she defines it, the statistical correspondence of demographic characteristics, and substantive representation, the correspondence of legislative goals and priorities. So all she did was basically take from Carol Swain and in parentheses explain what descriptive representation meant as opposed to substantive representation. So that's the second time. Now, so this is basically the same line with very little modification. Christopher Rufo writes, Gay's use of Swain's material is a straightforward violation of the university's rule on verbatim plagiarism, which states that, quote, one must give credit to the author of the source material, either by placing the source material in quotation marks and providing a clear citation, or by paraphrasing the source material and providing a clear citation. She doesn't do that. This is not in quotes. This is not in quotes. So Gay plagiarized Carol Swain later in the paper as well. Later in the paper, Gay also used identical language to Swain without adding quotation marks as required. She writes, listen to this. Here's another one. Here's the OG version. Since the 1950s, this is Carol Swain, the re-election rate for House members has rarely dipped below 90%, close quote. Now, here's Gay. Since the 1950s, the re-election rate for incumbent, all right, House members, that's all she put in there. That's all she changed, has rarely dipped below 90%. She used the same exact line as Carol Swain. Third, Gay composes an entire appendix and the dissertation directly taken from Gary King's book, a book called A Solution to the Ecological Inference Problem. While she cites King's book, in fact, King was her dissertation advisor. But Gay does not explicitly acknowledge that Appendix B is entirely grounded in King's concepts. Instead, she passed it off as her own original work. So throughout the appendix, Gay takes entire phrases and sentences directly from King's book without any citations or quotations. Listen to this. In total, Gay borrows material from King and at least half a dozen paragraphs, all in violations of Harvard's standards on academic integrity. This chick is a plagiarist, and it looks as though she's going to be allowed to get away with it just because, making sure I reset that, just because she's black and she's a female and possibly gay. All right. This is insane. Now, this popped up at the Washington Beacon, this popped up from the Washington Beacon, Washington Free Beacon, excuse me. This is definitely plagiarism is the title. Harvard University President Claudine Gay copied entire paragraphs from others' academic work and claimed them as her own. You know what? I am sick and tired. This is why this frustrates me. I am sick and tired of people telling blacks or acting like blacks cannot be as smart as a white person, as an Asian person, or anyone else if we apply ourselves. Frankly, there's some people that are never going to make it onto an Ivy League campus. Guys, I'm a smart person. I don't believe I would make it onto an Ivy League campus, or would have, even in my younger days. I did not have that type of vigor when it came to education. However, I do believe that if I had applied myself better than I did, I would have done better younger. All right. That's what I truly believe. But I'm sick and tired of people giving blacks a pass because it is not compassion. To me, it's condescending. It's telling blacks that you are not as smart as us. You can't make it as far as us unless we give you some type of handout. And for blacks to sit and accept this, it makes no sense to me. I think that's crazy. I think that is racism. It's just crazy to me. All right, so this from the Washington Free Beacon, and we'll close out. Please remember to subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Don't forget about the deals that are available at mypillow.com right now. Use the promo code Carl at the Radio Podcast Square at the top of the page. All right, so Harvard University President Claudine Gay plagiarized numerous academics over the course of her academic career, at times airlifting entire paragraphs and claiming them as her own work. This according to reviews by scholars. They quote Christopher Rufo, but there's even more. In 4 papers published between 1993 and 2017, this including her doctoral dissertation. Remember, Christopher Rufo just went through her doctoral dissertation, so there's more. There's more papers. There's at least 3 more papers. Gay is a political scientist. Paraphraser quoted nearly 20 authors, including 2 of her colleagues in Harvard University's Department of Government, which I mentioned, without proper attribution. This according to the Washington Free Beacon. Other examples of possible plagiarism, all from Gay's dissertation, again, were publicized by Rufo and Carl Stack's Chris Brunette. The Free Beacon worked with nearly a dozen scholars to analyze 29 potential cases of plagiarism. Most of them said that Gay had violated a core principle of academic integrity, as well as Harvard's own anti-plagiarism policies. And I've already told you what those stated, or what that said. In her 1997 thesis, for example, she borrowed a full paragraph from a paper by the scholars Bradley Palmquist, then a political science professor at Harvard, and Stephen Voss, one of Gay's classmates in her PhD program at Harvard, while making only a couple alterations, including changing their decrease, quote unquote, to increase, because she was studying a different set of data. The 4 papers that include plagiarized material comprise a sizable portion of Gay's scientific or academic work. Gay is Harvard's 30th president, has authored just 11 peer-reviewed articles. Anyway, it goes on. the evidence is mounting. This chick is a plagiarist. She's gotten where she's gotten, not just because of her skin color. In my opinion, I don't think she's qualified to be there, but she got there by lying. She's not as smart as she pretends that she is. She's as smart as other people whom work she stole. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. And again, I just think this is important because sadly, a lot of these corporations, a lot of these law enforcement institutions, these government bureaucracies, they are hiring college students, obviously not just in Ivy League, but the Ivy League is just what's been exposed. But our college campuses across the United States, I don't care if it's community college even, they are going woke. And we have to start fighting back in these institutions. Not only do we need to win in 2024, but conservatives have to have a long-term plan to win back the United States of America and restore the Constitution. And one of the ways that we can do it is through academia. Obviously, it's also through entertainment. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.